All right, it is that time, that magic time, that I am going to start the timer. First of all, my name is Rene, and I want to thank everyone for coming. Welcome, bienvenidos en español. Thank you for coming to my presentation. I'm very excited to share my experience in Mexico. I was there for Holy Week, which is called Semana Santa, and then we were there for Resurrection Week. In Mexico, it's called Pascua. So Mexican people really put a lot of time and energy into their holy season. All the kids and family take off the whole entire 2 weeks. So Puerto Vallarta is where I was. Puerto Vallarta became very busy. The beaches were busy with families. The families come from all over Mexico to partake in the celebrations, to be on the beach, to enjoy the food and energy in Mexico. So I have a few things I want to tell you about. Some key words here. Semana Santa means Holy Week. Holy Friday is Viernes Santo, which is our Good Friday. It's also the Way of the Cross, the commemoration of the Passion, Death, and Resurrection of Jesus Christ. And Pascua, again, is Resurrection Week. So for 2 weeks, the kids are out of school, and it is a huge party and celebration. I have put a video together of my day in Puerto Vallarta for their Holy Friday. So welcome, bienvenido. What? A holy day in Puerto Vallarta with Rene Bianco. Now some of the things you're going to see on my video. Number one, we're going to see Mexican pole dancers. Oh. Okay. Yeah. The things you're going to learn in church, I don't know. We're going to see the horses on the beach, on the Malecon, which is the boardwalk. Walking to the church, so you're going to have an opportunity to see some of the beautiful sights in Puerto Vallarta, which is amazing. When the video gets into the church, this amazing church, I went through the 12 stations of the cross in the church. I'm just going to give you a snapshot of it. It's all in Spanish, but you're going to understand it. Then we get out to the street, and the street was the most profound event, probably one of the most emotional times I've ever had in my life, because it's called the Passions of Christ. And what happens is the actors are honored a year in advance to become actors in the Passions of Christ, where they walk through the stations of Christ and they act it out. And it's a huge procession through the streets of Puerto Vallarta and all the streets in Mexico, and it is very real and it is very emotional. You really feel the energy. You feel the passion of Christ. So I only am showing a couple of the stations, otherwise we'll be here for more than 2 hours. So the actors that act out the different parts, some of the things that I want you to kind of pay attention to is at the end of one of the clips, it's going to show a young man who's walked the streets for 2 hours carrying a cross that he's been tied to. And they actually whip them, there's blood-like materials, and the person that is portraying Jesus has a thorn, a crown of thorns, absolutely. So the stations of the cross you're going to see is when Jesus is condemned, he's made to bear his cross, he's nailed to the cross, and then he dies and is taken down from the cross. So, before I start, is there any quick questions? You'll have a few after this. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Big buckaroo.
¡Dense prisa! ¡Vamos! ¡Miren a su rey! ¡Su rey! ¡Ese es su rey! ¡Mírenlo! ¡Ese es el rey de los bobos! ¡Mírenlo!
¡Vamos, rey de los gusanos! ¡Adelante! ¡Vamos, camina! ¡Vamos!
¡Es un mentiroso! ¡Mírenlo! ¡Anda, camina! ¡Lo tiene! ¡Mírenlo!
Esta estación número 11 la vamos a ofrecer por la paz del mundo. Especialmente pedimos por la paz en nuestras familias y en la guerra de Ucrania, para que el Señor nos ayude a tener paz en nuestro corazón. Y desatar a las personas que no deben. Quiero invitar a las personas que se quieran morir por la paz, los que no han cargado la cruz, pasen por favor a cargarla.
Llegó tu hora, Jesús. ¡Tomas!
¡Muévete! ¡Anda! ¡Muévete! ¡Muévete! ¡Anda! ¡Muévete! ¡Trámelo! ¡Trámelo! ¡Está su rey! ¡Mira su rey! ¡Mírenlo! ¡Dios que venga a sus ángeles!
¡Su rey!
¡Tápelo! ¡Vámonos!
¡Vamos,
¡Camine,
camine!
ladrones! ¡Ángeles! ¡Ándate! ¡Fuerte! ¡Anda! ¡Camine!
¡Vamos!
¡Muévete!
¡Levanta la
¡Muévete!
cabeza!
¡Muévete! ¡Muévete, ladrón!
¡Anda, camina, ladrón! ¡Apúrense!
¡Anda, muévete!
¡Esto es lo que le pasa a los ladrones! ¡Ya llegó tu hora, ladrón!
¡Muévete!
¡Apúrense, que ya es tarde! ¡Date prisa! ¡Se está haciendo tarde! ¡Caminen!
¡Anda, muévete! ¡Muévete!
Llama Jesús, me llama Jesús, me llama Jesús.
Jesús, muere aquí. Te adoramos, oh Cristo, y te bendecimos.
Que por tu santa cruz redimiste al mundo de mi pecadora.
Lectura bíblica. Era ya cerca de la hora sexta, cuando al eclipsarse el sol hubo oscuridad sobre toda la tierra hasta la hora nona. El velo del santuario se rasgó por medio y Jesús, dando un fuerte grito, dijo: Padre, en tus manos pongo mi espíritu. Y dicho esto, expiró.
Los que puedan se ponen de rodillas y con mucha reverencia recordamos ese momento de la muerte de nuestro Señor Jesucristo. Nos ponemos de pie para comunidad. Personas que quieran ofrecer esta suerte de gobernantes, pueden que tomen la cruz, los que faltan, de tomar la cruz, para completar.
Perdona tu pueblo, Señor. Perdona tu pueblo, perdónale, Señor. Perdona tu pueblo, Señor. Perdona tu pueblo, perdónale, Señor. Otras 3 horas sean dormidas, en que por madre dice a María, perdónale, Señor.
So at the beginning, I talked a little bit about pole dancers, and I don't know what you guys were thinking, but pole dancers. So I took a little time to study about what the history of the flying, they're called the flying merman, and they represent gratitude to the gods of sun and rain. So 4 men, thank you, 4 men climb up to the sky and then they fly, because the history says what one of us mortals wouldn't love to fly. So it's to honor their gods of sun and rain. So that's the pole dancer part. The horse part. Rene is a buckaroo. The Malecon, which is like the boardwalk in Puerto Vallarta, you saw a few things at the beginning of it. They have some amazing artists down there, lots of things to see. The artistic energy in that city is amazing. So those little rocking horses were there for people to enjoy and take fun pictures of. The next part, walking to the church. So all of the streets are cobblestone, and you have to watch your way in there. The church, when we got into the church, I did a snapshot of the different stations, and everything's in Spanish. So I don't understand everything in Spanish at all, but I hope everyone kind of got the gist of what they were saying. The procession. So I actually sat in church for all 12 stations of the cross, and then we went out for the Passions of Christ and walked for 2 hours in the sun behind the processional. So the people that were the actors were barefoot on the hot cobblestone, and the 2 young boys that had the crosses they were actually tied to those crosses. So at the very end, when Jesus was crucified, the 2 boys were on their knees and their arms were actually tied. When they finally took them down, those young boys, they couldn't even move. They were like paralyzed. So they take it very seriously, and you saw that the actors acting out and the Roman guards beating them, whiplashing them. It's very, very real. One of the things I wanted to say is, the music that's playing is a scripture, and in English it says, "We adore you, O Christ, we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world." So one of the things that I learned in my travels is I don't always speak Spanish, I don't always understand all the words, but what I do understand is that God's love is a universal language. Absolutely. So I want to take a minute to answer questions, comments, complaints, concerns.
So I'm just curious, so Puerto Vallarta is a pretty good sized city, right?
Yes, yes.
So does there's more than one church, I'm assuming, does
Yes.
each church do their own thing?
This church is the center, the cornerstone, well, the center of the community. I know there's a lot of other little churches, but this is the church that everybody comes to. So there are some other little churches. I think there's 7 churches in Puerto Vallarta, but this is the one that's has the biggest experience. Bob Burley.
Yeah, what was the relationship between the young man that was on the cross, that's Christ, and the person that was at a great distance, you couldn't see it very well? He's laying on the cross and he's covered with a sheet. Is that the same person?
Yes,
How does
yes.
that work?
I kind of cut it out a little bit. So when they crucified Jesus, they took him down from the cross, and then they put a sheet over him, and then I faded it out to where we were back in front of the church, and they carried him in to his internment. So he acted, he was Christ through the whole thing.
So it's the same person?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And at the end where he's standing, he was holding on to like nails and standing on the cross. And you have to be in good shape for this. This is something that's a huge honor, and they have to practice, and they take it really seriously. So they do their push-ups and hold the crosses, and they're ready for it. What else? Yes.
Rene, did you go to Puerto Vallarta for this event, or were you just on vacation and happened upon it?
I'm glad you asked me that. So, over the past few years, I've been taking a Spanish class through Congregational Community College, and my maestro, the Spanish teacher, was an older gentleman who lived in Mexico City for 40 years. And when he was a young man, he traveled to Mexico, American, and he met a Mexican lady. They didn't speak the same language, but they fell in love and eventually got married, and he moved to Mexico City. So during my Spanish classes, he was so passionate about the Mexican culture and the different holidays and events, and he talked so much about Semana Santa and the events of La Dia de los Muertos that when I retired last year, I knew I wanted to go spend a month in Mexico, so I actually planned it so that I could partake in Semana Santa, because it's a once a year, once in a lifetime event for sure. And one of the things that you probably saw in my video is I was the only Rubio, the only blonde. Yeah, my husband, he did this with a GoPro, and he's 6'5", so his head is way over all the, yeah, so we did stand out. Some of the things I would change definitely is I spent a lot of time like trying to capture everything on my phone that I didn't pay attention to a lot of things. And the other thing is that Mexico usually doesn't let you walk into church at all unless you have a dress on. And I was in just like this sort of, and I think they've relaxed it over the years, but I remember first traveling to Mexico that you were not allowed to go in the church. You could stand at the door and look in, but you could not go in if you didn't wear a dress. And I think that I would be more respectful, because I noticed there's a few people that, tourists like me, that don't wear dresses, but I would definitely be more respectful. Dress appropriately. Yes.
Do the women still wear headpieces? My
Yes.
girlfriend was Catholic, and I went to her church as a kid.
Oh, yes.
And you never went in a Catholic church without a headpiece.
Yes. Some of the old, there was during the Station of the Cross, there was a little old lady who had a head bonnet on and was on a walker. Yeah, and she actually she walked through the whole city, and whenever they would stop at the stations of the cross, she would get on her knees. Yes. What else?
Did you happen to go to a regular service on a Sunday?
Yeah, I have. Not this particular time.
Well, I just wondered, is there attendance in the Catholic Church like ours in America in churches?
I think that they're pretty busy. Their churches are busy there, and there's a lot of American tourists that go just to see how beautiful the churches are. So I think that they're busier. Definitely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you go to Easter Sunday service
Yes. Yes.
at that same cathedral?
Yes. Yes. It's called Semana Domingo, the Holy Sunday, and very, very beautiful. Lots of music, standing room only. And when we were walking up to the church, the music was so beautiful that I just cried. You know, my husband he's a construction worker, so he doesn't, but he had some tears too, because it's just so emotional. It's just so profound and beautiful. They behave differently than we do, for sure.
Did you stay in one place all the time you were there?
When we were there for a month, we have rented a condominium in a little town outside of Puerto Vallarta. It's called Puerto Vallarta, and we rented from a little Mexican lady who the condo complex was primarily Hispanic people there. So I had a really wonderful opportunity to experience Mexico, not Gringo, because I've gone there for quite a few years, and I always stay in a resort where, it's catered to Americans or to Canadians. So this last time I was down there for a month, and we ate street food, and we met all the local people in the community where we stayed. I have a little family that I have adopted, and we're going to go back and visit them. But one of the highlights of my trip this last year was, for 12 years, John and I have went down to the same area, and we go to this one restaurant, and there's a little waiter there, his name's Pedro, and we go there for 12 years, and we see Pedro. And this last time when we were there for a month, Pedro said, I want you to come meet my family. So he works 6 days a week, and he takes a little bus into town, and he gets up at 6 6 in the morning, and he doesn't get home till like 5 or something at night. So on his day off, he took the little bus down and picked John and I up, and we went on the bus with all the little Hispanics that are workers, went way up in the mountains. I called my sister, I said, I'm going with Pedro up to his house, and she said, what's Pedro's last name? Pedro. Where are you going? I said, up in the mountains. I was okay, I don't know. So his name is Pedro Robles, and he has 4 little girls. And we took the little bus up there. We got out, and he took us to his colonial, which is his community, his neighborhood. And his house was a very small, humble house, 2 bedrooms, a bath, and there's like a kitchen, dining room, and family room all in one. So probably this room right here is bigger than his entire, this room is bigger. And he was so proud and so happy to have John and I there. His wife brought us fruit. They live in very humble places. He was so happy. He took us to meet his mom, who was in her 80s. He took us to his church up at his colonia. We ate street tacos with mystery meat. I don't know. Didn't ask. I just ate it. I put hot sauce, and I thought, okay, I'll be fine. But we never got sick. We didn't feel unsafe at all. I had a fabulous time, and I had an opportunity to really see how some of the Mexicans live in their humble houses, and coming home to be grateful that we have water, we have bathrooms that flush, we have a lot of things to be grateful for. But this little family has really touched my heart and soul, and I'm doing whatever I can to help them along the way the best I can. Yeah, exactly.
Does his wife work?
Yes, her name is Juanita, and every day she gets up and she goes to the local market and buys papaya and mango and fruit, and she cuts it all up and sells it in little plastic cups.
Yep.
So she works, and then there's the 4 daughters, the 3 oldest ones, work together, and they bake bread and they sell bread. And the youngest one, Diana, she goes to school still. So yeah, they all work, and they work really hard. They work very hard. Yes.
All of them 2 bedrooms.
Yes. All of them in 2 bedrooms. Yes.
Wow.
And 2 dogs and a cat. Yes. One of the things that they do to help supplement their income is they are the privileged family in this little community because they have a refrigerator and a freezer, and they actually sell ice for 10 cents. Yeah, it's very enlightening. Yes, absolutely.
And no running water?
The water comes and goes. It comes and goes. So I think it depends on if it rains, if the water comes through. I'm not sure how it goes. So it's random. There's not always, you can't always count on it.
When I visited Puerto Vallarta several times, we were told that about 15 years ago, the city of Puerto Vallarta purchased a Philips of the Netherlands water system, and their city water is
Yes.
pure and it's not dangerous to drink at all.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely, yes. Puerto Vallarta water within the city is completely fine to drink, and you don't have to worry about any of it.
Right.
When you get up into the you need to drink beer or something. Tequila, something that's, yeah, exactly, yes. But you're exactly right. The water systems are very clear and pure in Puerto Vallarta.
What's the population of Puerto Vallarta?
I don't know. It has probably such a flow of tourists and Americans that come down there during the winters, the expats that come down. But I feel like when I'm down there, that there is more Americans and Canadians and Mexicans down there. Yeah, I mean, it's just so beautiful, and people love it so much down there, and the beach is so clean. When you were seeing some of my video, it is so clean. It is very clean, and the public restrooms are clean, and I have never felt unsafe anywhere down there. I don't go anywhere at night that I'm not familiar with. I'm not, I use the same precautions that I would use in my hometown. Yeah, absolutely. Wash my purse and make sure I know where my husband is. And,
Are there sharks in the water?
yes, What's worse is crocodiles. Crocodiles. In Puerto Vallarta is what's called the Bay of Bandera, so it's a huge bay. And there's a lot of rivers that flow down, and there's a particular river called the Mecca. And up above, like in the mountain area, there's a lot of crocodiles in their area. So during the rainy season, it washes them down into the ocean. And we saw while we were there in April, they closed the beach like in front of where we were staying, and we saw a big crocodile out in the water. So they put like black flags on the beach until everybody stayed out of the water. And my friends had been down from Reno the day before, and he was out surfing. He could have been crocodile. It happens a lot. They've been having a lot of problems with the crocodiles recently because it's really raining down there right now, and it's washing a lot of them down into the tourist area in front of the Sheraton Hotel. They had to relocate a crocodile.
Did they charge you for the show?
What else? Yeah, it is beautiful. That's why I love it. Honey, I'm going back again. We're gonna go for 3 weeks next year instead of 4 weeks. Yeah, 4 weeks was a little long. I was ready to come home. I'm just easing into it, so we're gonna go for 3 weeks next year.
Did you rent a car?
No, all public transportation, all of it, yes. You can get anywhere for just a few pesos. And it takes taxis, rented bicycles, and yeah. So when we go, the town that we stay in is a little ways out from Puerto Vallarta, so we usually take a taxi into town and back. But where we stay, there's a lot of little fishing villages and stuff, and we rent a bike so we can actually ride our bikes into the next little town. It's not too far, yeah. There's a lot of places that are still very Mexico and not really, they haven't catered to the Americans yet there, so you can get a real feel for Mexico.
What shopping did you do?
Oh, well, who was saying something about Walmart?
We
Yeah,
were
there,
talking about
Walmart,
it.
yes. So we stayed in a condo and we had to go shopping, so we took a taxi to a Walmart. And it's quite an experience, let me tell you. It's like combat shopping, putting families of 10. And it's funny, they have it set up pretty good there. So the husband goes and stands in this really long line, and the wife goes and does all the shopping. So you think you're in line behind, just a couple people, and here she comes with like big carts, and you're like, oh.
It's called Burning Man.
Yeah, that's it. So I did a little combat shopping in Walmart, out in the little town where we stay. They're called Awaxa, and they're like 7-Elevens, and they have everything there. They have everything there.
It means Oaxaca.
It means Oaxaca? Or what does it mean?
Awaxa.
It's Oaxaca.
Oaxaca. So we did a little shopping like that, but they have a lot of little flea market stuff, and we went to the farmers markets there are really amazing. They have, so a lot of people bring their goods and their treasures and a little bit of shopping like that. I did some shopping for my little friends that lived down there and bought the little girls some stuff so they could go swimming because they didn't know how to swim. So bought some little floats for them and left them there so they could venture to swim with the crocodile.
What's the temperature when you went? In April?
April's a nice time of year. Yeah, it's probably the low of 68 and a high of maybe 84.
So not too.
No, right now is the rainy season, so it's really humid. It's really humid. So during the day it's hot and you really are. They call it a 3-shirt day, and it rains at night. And the rain storms are amazing. The lightning, and it's nothing like we have here. So this right now is the rainy season, and it's not so pleasant to go. It's really inexpensive to go right now. but it's the crocodiles and the rain, so you gotta watch out for that.
So the best time is spring.
Yeah, spring is a great time, it's kind of the shoulder season. I think what the most popular season is probably November through, probably April is the high season, because that's cold in winter everywhere else, so all of us go down there to.
Whale watching.
How expensive is it to rent a place there? I mean, you rent it by a month, I take it.
Yeah, I think where we stay, it depends on where you're at. I have, when I was searching to find a place, you can rent, it just depends on where you're comfortable and what community you feel is a good choice. Downtown Puerto Vallarta is really, I think that it's really reasonable, but it's very busy and there's a lot of nightlife down there, and unless you like to stay up late and get up early, that's probably, it's very reasonable. Where we stayed on the outskirts, we stayed in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath condominium, on the ocean, on the marina, and it was $2,800 for the night. Which, Yep, yeah. That was 3-bed. Yeah, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Just for John and I, in case. Yeah. One of my girlfriends and her husband came down for a few days and spent a little time with us, but it was just perfect.
So did you cook any of your own meals?
Yes, that's why I went to Walmart. So I learned the routine in Walmart, so I write my list on how to go. And everything's in Spanish, so I do speak a little bit of Spanish, so I can navigate pretty good. But we bought stuff to make breakfast and sandwich stuff for lunches, lots of fruits, and we went out a lot for dinner, because where we stayed was an area where a lot of the families bring out their food at night. So they had an El Pastor tacos where they stack the meat and then they slice it off. That was really close by, and I think it was 70 cents a taco. Yeah, and then they have like what food trucks really used to be like is what they have down there, where there's a truck that pulls up and the family opens the back of it, and they have homemade tamales that are hot and fresh and delicious. And I was a little hesitant here and there, but I never got sick, so I don't know. Maybe I had enough tequila to kill me. That's the key, tequila. Yes.
And you found all of this stuff on a vacations website type of thing?
The things that I do.
That you did?
Well, I've been lucky enough that John and I travel, and we would usually travel to the same area.
Oh, okay.
And we would go to this one particular resort that we were familiar with.
Yeah.
And when we were at the resort, we would venture off into different places. So when I retired this last year, we had been doing some research, like some footwork when we were down there last year, and found this condominium from our friend Pedro, whose last name used to be unknown. He said, that condo, I have a lady, and he gave me her name, and we went and met her, and we ended up breaking her condo, so.
When I was in North Dakota, there was a friend of mine that saved all his vacation and money to go on a big trip. And he didn't have to web then, but the travel agencies, he got booked in the way upper headlands of the Amazon River, in the jungle. In tents that are on wood platforms and stuff. It's just, wow.
I definitely did a lot of research and footwork, and when we were down there just this last time, navigated a few different things, so I would definitely do a few things differently for sure. Just a little trial by fire, and we were lucky. We had we met a lot of nice people, and we navigated nicely, so it turned out okay for us.
We have a timeshare in Cancun, and we've had it about 20 years now, years. And it's not one of the tall hotels, it's just wonderful. It's about 10 stories, and you get a free breakfast, and then you have cocktail hour, a gorgeous beach, and the water there is fabulous. It is clear and warm. I mean, it's icy. So we love that. And then you can go off from there to different
has a condo on the other side of Mexico, on the Caribbean side, where the water is much, much different than the Pacific side where the crocodiles and sharks are.
There's a place, but we would always go make a trip over there into the coast, and the water wasn't clear in the morning, it was cold and muddy. So, you know, yes, ocean, but it's wonderful. The weather's great and people are so nice. I've been happy with our.
If you want warm water right now, I was up at the lake last week and it was fabulous. The water at Tahoe has never been warmer, so get up there now.
And I was at Donner here, same thing, warm, Donner last Sunday.
Here we are, people that travel,
I know, yeah.
travel all over the world, and some of the best places on earth are right here in our backyard. Lake Tahoe, Colorado, 20 minutes from my house, absolutely.
That's right.
Yes, absolutely.
And we never get there because, I go tomorrow. I think I see it.
It's got too many tourists now.
Well,
So now it's the shoulder day, we can get up there and enjoy it. You don't have to go all the way to Mexico, we can go right to our backyard.
We were very fortunate, we owned a house up there. And so kids and friends and so forth would go up. So we do, we had a sailboat and it was nice.
Well, thank you to everyone, and thank you for bringing us
Thank
down.
you.
I'm going to give you a snapshot of some place that I've been. Bien Canta. Thank you. Gracias.
Gracias.
De nada.
It's called